Now, when we are done with the basic anatomy of the collarbone, which is the clavicle, and we talk about its surfaces, its borders, and medial and the lateral ends and its attachment, now there's another important part which need to be discussed here. That is about the clinical anatomy and the clinical implication of this collarbone. So one thing you need to know that clavicle is responsible for the weight transmission. Number two, clavicle is, it's act as a stroot between the axial and the pendicular skeleton. And we also know that the clavicle is responsible for the protection of important neurovascular bundle, right? So one clinical significance of this clavicle bone is it's a potential protector for important neurovascular structures like the brachial plexus, and then you have the subclavian artery and the subclavian vein, and then you have the supraclavicular nerves and the long thoracic nerve in actually that cervical canal actually. So important structures which are the part of the cervical canal, you have the brachial plexus, you have the subclavian artery and the subclavian vein, and then you have the supraclavicular nerves as well. Now, when you go to the clinics, so there are some important dislocations which are responsible, or which are clinically important when you're talking about the clavicle. One is the clavicular fractures, and then you have the clavicular dislocations. So acromioclavicular dislocation is the most common dislocation. And the fractures of the clavicle are very important and very common whenever there is outstretched hand or there's a fall on the ground. So you can see here on the diagram that you have this, the lateral end fractures, then you have the medial end fractures, and then you have the middle fractures or fractures of the middle part of the clavicle, and which are more common. Okay, then you have the acromioclavicular dislocation, absolutely right here. You know that this is the acromial end of the clavicle. Okay, so the acromial end of the clavicle, and then the attachment with the acromion process of the acromion process of the scapula. So there's acromioclavicular dislocation in most of the times, and then you have to manage this acromioclavicular dislocations as well. Okay, so we divide this into a medial part, then you have a middle part, and then you have a lateral part. Okay, so the fractures in the lateral 1/3, they make up almost 15%. Then the fractures in the middle 1/3, they make up almost 80%. And the fractures on the medial 1/3, they make up almost 5%. So we, by this percentage, we can see that the medial fractures are the least, then you have the lateral fractures, and the most common are the middle fractures, or the fractures of the body or the shaft of the clavicle. Now, what is actually the mechanism behind the generation of these fractures? So one is the outstretched hand, the other is a fall on the ground, because it's a bone which is only covered by the subcutaneous. It's also called as a subcutaneous bone. Okay, so there's not a lot of fat and muscles over here to protect, and a lot of fascia to protect it. So that's why any blow to the anterior part of the chest that may hit the clavicle at the middle part, and that is the reason the middle shaft or the body of the clavicular fractures, they are more common. Then at times what happens that during the vaginal delivery or a breech presentation with a vaginal delivery, there's a possibility that there's a stretch over the clavicle, and these are the fractures which are very common in the infants, especially with a breech presentation or with some kind of abnormalities. So in the adults, you talk about the outstretched hand, you talk about the fall, and in infants or newborns, the fractures are because of the breech presentation or because of the impact of the vaginal delivery and the narrow outlet, and there is a stretching over the clavicle whenever there is a passage of the child through the narrowed vaginal canal. So that's why there is a possibility of fracture to the clavicle. Then usually how you're going to manage these things, it's only, clavicular fractures, you don't have much to do about them. You just have to make them immobile, and then you just have to attach the sling so that it is immobile. And usually they have a very good healing, and they have 2 ossification centers, and they have the good healings, so that's why they are healed readily within the span of 2 weeks. So remember acromioclavicular dislocations, and remember the clavicular fractures. Another important thing here is if there is a fracture to the middle part of the fracture to the middle part of the clavicle, then there is attachment of the sternocleidomastoid muscle on the medial part, and the attachment of the deltoid to the acromion or the lateral part. So what happens, this is the intact bone or the clavicle. So the sternocleidomastoid would displace the medial part upward, and deltoid will displace the lateral part downward like this. Okay, so there would be upper displacements or superior displacement of the medial end and inferior displacement of the lateral end. It's because of the origin insertion of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and you have the deltoid muscle. Okay, then there is another clinical implication, which is actually, this is the last bone to ossify, and usually between 21 and the 25 years. So there is a possibility that with the advancement of the age, and there is a less of the calcium and phosphate deposits, and mineralization of the bone is affected. So there are some pathological fractures as well, which can be there in the clavicle. Then another important thing is if there is a fracture of a clavicle, there's a possibility that there is a damage to the supraclavicular nerve. There's a possibility that there's a damage to the long thoracic nerve, and obviously there would be long thoracic is supplying the serratus anterior muscle. So there would be the shrugging of the shoulder would be compromised. Then there's a possibility that there's a massive bleed because of the subclavian vein, because it's protecting the important neurovascular bundle, the important neurovascular structures, the subclavius, the subclavian vein, and the subclavian artery, and some of the nerves from the brachial plexus. So there is a possibility, if there's a fracture or there is some other abnormality with the clavicle, the patient may suffer because of the tingling. The patient may develop tingling and a numbness sensation along the distribution of that particular nerve. Usually it's in the medial part of the arm, and it's the medial cubital nerve. That's actually a medial cutaneous branch supplying the medial part. So there's a tingling over the right or left, wherever the fracture is, wherever the pathology is, on the medial part of the arm. So one clinical implication. Then there is a possibility that there is a damage to the subclavian vein, and there's a massive bleed from the subclavian vein. So remember, the clavicle fractures are that much important. They have that much clinical significance when you talk about their impact, their support, the weight transmission, and the pathological fractures and acromioclavicular dislocations. So we talk about clavicle, we talk about basic anatomy, we talk about medial and the lateral attachments, which is the acromioclavicular and sternoclavicular attachment. We talk about the different muscles, the origin insertions, and then we talk about the clinical anatomy. So we have got other lectures on our site, which is sqadia.com, and now you can enjoy our lectures on the app, which is on the Google Play Store, and it's also on the Apple Store. So you can always go there, download the app, get entry into the website, and you can enjoy our lectures. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching sqadia.com. Keep watching sqadia.com.